there are different ways that people confide in you. I've been fortunate in several ways where somebody is literally a total stranger just phoned me up and just said, I want to commit suicide. And in this case I said, do you want to talk about it before you commit suicide? Or because obviously she'd opened up to me. And she said, yeah, and this is, like I said, it's a stranger. And she said, yeah, let's talk. So I went to visit her, and we talked, and by the end of the talk she seemed to be much more settled. And then she said, you know, I'd really like to meet you again. And alhamdulillah, after a while she started to get over that, her suicidal thoughts, and alhamdulillah, in the end she actually became Muslim and became quite healthy in her state. And this has happened several times where people have just opened up. And if you're lucky enough to be in that position where somebody opens up to you and just tells you, I'm thinking about suicide, it's actually much easier, because what you need to do then is to listen. And that's the key to understanding this situation, is to listen and to be there to try and talk them through the situation. And alhamdulillah, a few other occasions where people have just been open and says, I really feel like killing myself. And I've just talked. Other times where it's not so obvious, that people don't often just say, by the way, I'm having suicidal thoughts. You need to tease things out of this. There was one young man who I hardly knew, and he phoned me up one day and he says, Abdul Aziz, I love you, man. I just wanted to tell you I love you. And I don't really know, but I just love you. And I think, I just wanted to say that because, in case. Now, he didn't say he's going to commit suicide. He wasn't a total stranger. I knew him, but I wouldn't know his name. I could recognize his face maybe in a class, but that statement you could see is something strange. And in that case, what was my reaction? I love you too, man. Even though I couldn't really remember him that well, but he needed to know that I loved him, and I did love him. It's just I couldn't connect so well. And after that I says, let's just, you know, man, let's just meet, let's talk. He was in another city, and he says, you know, that's enough, we'll talk tomorrow. And then I called him back the next day and I says, you know, I'm really sorry I didn't call you back earlier, you know, I was really busy, my wife was ill, she's in hospital, but you know, how you doing, pal? And he says, I'm alright, I love you, man, I love you, man. And then we talked like 3 or 4 days like that, and there was no real conversation. It was just, I love you, man. But each time it was a different kind of I love you, man. It was like he was beginning to realize that there was a bit of, and then we talked a bit more. I said, so why is your wife in? And we talked, and he talked about my problem, talked about his problems. It wasn't until about 3 or 4 months later that in a meeting, he just turned and says, you know, I nearly committed suicide, and that man over there, he saved my life. And I said, whoa, what's going on here? He said, no, that man over there, he saved my life. If he wasn't here, if it wasn't for him, I would have died. I was about to commit suicide. And he stopped me. And I didn't know what I did. And that first day, he just phoned me up. But you can see there was something going on, because he said something which was so strange that you knew something was going on. And that reaction was just to be there. And he was looking for love. He was looking for validation, so to speak. He was looking for something. And that's what he needed to be given. So the answer of what do you do when somebody opens up, is you've got to be there. And you've got to give from yourself, of who you've got to give sincerely. It's not a theoretical sit down and say, okay, let's talk about why you want to kill yourself. It might be, but if it's just a theoretical psychological approach, then you can direct him to that point. But often the immediate thing is just to be there. And then to signpost, to point them in the right direction if you're not able to do it yourself. And sometimes the most important thing is to listen and just help, just be there.